Hi, Lipi. Can we have a quick mic check?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Lipi.
Okay, good.
Great. Okay, so let's get started. So I think many of you probably would know Lipi Sarkar and Vinny Bansal. They wrote a book a couple of months back, and those who are really deep dive into a discussion of digital transformation. So this today's topic is mainly around digital transformation. Okay, so as I mentioned, she is an author, public speaker, and she is currently helping large and the small businesses to achieve a level of success in their digital transformation journey. She recently co-authored a book called Building a Digital Future. So basically, when Lipi and I had a brief chat earlier on her book, and I was excited to call on India BizApp's Back to School Bootcamp 2021, and that is how we started a discussion, and then we planned for a session which we are planning to deep dive more on this digital transformation. So I'm really excited to hear your thoughts, Lipi, on probably 4 or 5 main topics that we will touch on the today's discussion. And so these topics are going to range from digital transformation challenges, key aspects of governance. We will also talk about the impact of digital transformation as a society. But before we get into our discussion today, would you like to brief yourself a little bit about the intro and let community know
Absolutely.
who you are, what you are up to, and what you are involved with at the moment, Lipi?
Thank you, Rakesh. Firstly, let me start with it's a pleasure to be in BizApp's Back to School Bootcamp and really a pleasure to talk to you. I'm Lipi Sarkar. I have been in the industry, started my career with business consulting, and then moved on to worked in big four companies, consulting organization as a Microsoft lead, as a Dynamics 365 practice lead, and then have been program director, project director. Currently, I'm working with CloudSource as digital transformation director. I'm working with small and medium business, public sector organization nowadays. But I've got experience in running or leading the global transformation, running across multiple countries. And it has got its own challenges and complexities. So that's where it all started, I think, gathering all the different kind of experiences to bring it down into a book with Vinny. So, do you want to talk about the digital transformation, talk about the book? So, feel
Yeah, I
free.
think we have a couple of questions lined up over there, but let me just say thank you for the introduction, Lipi, and helping the wider online community. So let us start off with the basics of the digital transformation and its impact on the society.
Absolutely. So, digital transformation, let me take a step back in terms of when we're using the term, what exactly does it mean? So, let me unpack a little bit about digital transformation. So, when we talk about digital, everything is digital nowadays. And start with if you're based in India or globally anywhere, you can order your breakfast or your lunch or any kind of food through your
Yeah,
app, right?
yeah,
Then you want to travel, you can call upon a cab through your app. Um, if you want to, nowadays, in the pandemic situation, what has
mm,
happened since everything has been moved from brick and mortar shops to, working remotely. So the organizations or the retail sector, which didn't have the digital presence, they have also set up the digital presence so that people can order and the customer experience can carry on. They can carry on the business. So it's about digital transformation is about transforming what you do normally in your life, but do it
mhm,
digital. If you run 10 years back, people might not have thought about, ordering food or calling a cab using your mobile app, right? But now
that's
we are doing digital banking. We are doing everything through our mobile. And the mobile is not just for call, because when we try to, think about mobile, everything we do in our normal day-to-day life comes across and encapsulated within the different ways of doing work, right? So hence the term about digital transformation. Now, how you are transforming your business. and how you're making it easier for the customers or the clients or whoever you want to service, how you're making it easier for them. So that's I would say digital transformation. Now, you can take a step in terms of when we are thinking about organization, what kind of organization we are talking about. Is it a manufacturing? Is it a retail sector? Is it a business banking? Or is it, trying to reach out to citizens, giving normally serving our citizens? So what kind of business are you in, and how you're transforming the business so that people sitting at home or working remotely or maybe at a different location can do the normal business with using that kind of digital presence, right? So that's, and in our today's world, customers are, we do not have much time. We try to do a lot of things, try to squeeze our time and try to bring that on. I try to do that everything in our juggling through a normal life and try to do that in a very small scale of time. So the customers are also time precious because we would like to get the service. And if I'm a consumer, I would like to get the service as soon as possible. So how you deliver that kind of service, and Amazon is there. You think about, yeah, Swiggy in India. You think about, cab services everywhere. How you normally deliver those kind of service. So that's where I would say, if we think about digital transformation rather than thinking about the term, if we think about normal day-to-day business, normal day-to-day work, how you can do that through your digital presence.
Perfect, Lipi, perfect. So, Lipi, can you please share your thoughts on what motivated you and Vinny to write these books? Because for me, I read a lot of books whenever I get time, and not very specific to technology, but the other categories, so that I can also learn and try to help community. But when I looked at book, it's very specific, it's very unique, right? That is why I'm so fascinated to understand what really motivated you, to write this sort of book,
Okay.
because it has
So
no flavor of a technology, right? It has a
absolutely.
flavor, but if someone from a technology, he or she can just go and read the book and start implementing, right?
Absolutely. So what we thought about, there are lots of books in the industry, in the market, where you think about, if you want to learn about dynamics, you've got a book about that. If you want to learn about, Microsoft, you have got a book. If you want about learn about any particular technology, you have got a book about that. And the community is doing fantastic job in terms of running different kind of sessions like you are doing, right? Uh, so what we found, there is a gap that the business have got a need, and we are serving that with the technology. But the technology is basically leveraging the technology, but there are lots of other complexities which lies beyond the technology. And how do you want to bring that in, and how do you want to bring that kind of experience? So because it's complexities, you are solving a business problem, business challenge through the technology, but it is about users. If users don't adopt the technology, that purpose, that need is not served. So firstly, we have to think about what are the complexity that lies within the organization. And it's easier said than done to say that, okay, my organization is having three problems. Let's solve this problem with this technology. So that doesn't happen. Mostly you won't understand where you want to start, because today's need about the business transformation, sometimes even the leadership team would know about the problem, would know about the business vision, where their organization want to be. But often the challenges we face is, where do you want to start and how would they start? So that's where we felt that our book would kind of bridge that gap to give you a step-by-step guide in terms of where do you want to start and how do you want to start. Now we have brought in different kind of aspects in the book in terms of different flavors, like what are the drivers for change, and then what do you need to do, where do you want to be. um, and often organizations want to either want to increase their operational efficiencies, maybe they want to increase their sales and opportunity pipeline, maybe they want to improve their customer experience, enrich the customer experience. So there might be different kind of driving factors. Now what are the key driving factors? Based on that, you would decide which technology path you want to take, right? But then you also have to prepare the organizations. Now how do you prepare the organization step by step? That's where our book brings in the flavor, and it can be any kind of technology. We have written the book focused around Dynamics, because Dynamics and Power Platform hand in hand together how we are solving the business challenges. But if this book is not technology agnostic, you can apply the principles and the framework that we have covered in the book in any kind of technology. And that's where I feel that it's a very niche area, or the way we have written the book is talking about bridging those kind of gaps.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you, Lipi. So moving on to the next topic, Lipi. So as per you, what is digital transformation and how best would you describe your experience with the customer that you deal?
It's a very interesting question, and the reason I'm saying interesting because I have seen digital transformation happening in different organizations in a different way. I have led a digital transformation across it was about 15 globally, about 15 countries, involving 15 countries. Now, when you are talking about global span, you might be having different challenges, different across countries. Culture is one of the aspects that comes in. So to go back to your digital transformation question, what do I feel? I feel the organization's understanding about what they want to target, what they want to achieve, what is the need, and what are the business drivers that you want to mitigate to solve the problem. And then from there on, you have to have an analysis within the organization in terms of where they are currently and where they want to be. In let's say 6 months' time or 18 months' time, where they want to be, what are the key problems they want to solve. And then do an analysis, impact analysis about the organization. And I'm not talking about technology, impact analysis about the organization, about their customers, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses about the organization. And you might not know the answers for everything. And you can only unravel it as you get to know the organization. And this is what I've learned in my experience. And I felt like, okay, I know about the key success factors the organization need to solve. So let's move into a certain way. And when you start moving into a certain aspects of the organization, and you might have thought about, okay, let's do the deployment in 3 waves or 4 waves, and you bring certain countries together, club together, and you feel like maybe culturally or somehow you might be able to resolve the problems because the customizations or the limitations or the different needs might be one way of doing things. But then you might unravel a different aspect that is about the data, because one country's data might be absolutely brilliant because they have managed to apply all the principles, data management, data governance principles, compared to the other country where they might not have so much of data governance principles applied into their data. Then it is a different challenge, right? So then how you resolve that problem. And then also about the user base, because the user base in country A might be quite different culturally, experience-wise, to country B. How do you bring them together, and how do you resolve that problem? So that's where it is about, the layers of onion, I would say. If you want to peel one, and then you find like you might not know all the problems at the beginning, but as you peel one by one, you get to know about certain other problems. And it is about de-risking the digital transformation. Because I have been through that experience, I know that this might come up. And it might not come up in every organization, it might not come up in every country. But if you're experienced enough, then you get to know about, okay, these are the things you might be aware of, and how you anticipate those kind of risks and challenges, and see through it and de-risk that from the very beginning. And transformation is a very big word, because when you're talking about global transformation and in an organization of, let's say, 3,000 to 15,000, it has got different complexities. And as you are aware of this kind of challenges might come up, how you mitigate those kind of challenges from the very beginning to be assured that the transformation is not derailed, and how to keep on transforming the business, keeping the timeline. There might be a slippage, you don't know, but you have to prepare for the organization yourself. And if there is a partner, that's where all the conversation need to have be at the right level, even if it is sensitive.
I think that explains very well, Lipi. So as we understand, the digital transformation as a subject, right, where some customer might want to just lift and shift of their on-prem system to the cloud, being a SaaS model, or some customer they're currently using bare metal infrastructures, and they wanted to move to a cloud just to managing the operating cost and so on and so forth, right? Can you please help us to understand why you and Vinny wrote a new book, and that to focus only on a Dynamics 365?
Okay, so the reason why we had written about Dynamics 365 because we thought of combining our experience and also to seek the experience globally across the community members, and there are different MVP and MCT and all the different people have participated in the book. So we thought of writing the book not just from our perspective, but if we can combine that from industry leaders and expertise and share their knowledge and from the user's perspective and the companies to bring that experience and knowledge in that book, that itself is quite enriching because we are not just talking about our experience. We are talking about somebody trying to lead a digital transformation sitting in Sweden compared to somebody doing that in Abu Dhabi. Might be completely quite different experience. So we wanted to bring that knowledge in the book. And then we thought of Dynamics 365 and Power Platform because that's the area we have been working using business transformation. And Microsoft as a product and Dynamics as a product has evolved during the period. And pandemic was another reason for why we thought that it was possible for the organization to carry on to running their business, keep their lights on, because it's a SaaS model, because it's cloud, even the deployment or the development or running the user testing, it was possible to do that because of the strength and capabilities of the product itself. So hence bringing all those aspects together, we thought of giving it back to the community.
I think that explained very well. Thank you, Lipi. And what kind of a challenge is, right? Because it's a journey, right? It is not a destiny. If someone wants to think from a legacy world to the digital transformation, a lot of factors, and as you mentioned, right? And I'm sure I think a couple of topics that you touch base in the book as well, right? It's a journey. So Lipi, where businesses are looking to see adoption of a digital transformation strategy, right? And let's think about a scenario where customer is completely operating in a traditional way of implementing their servers or the applications. What advice do you have for these enterprises? Do you have some key callouts here, Lipi?
So you mentioned about they are doing business traditionally and maybe not in the SaaS model, right?
Yeah.
And we have seen that kind of debate coming up in the Western world as well. And now it has been shifting. Now it is changing. Like, why to move into cloud? Can we have a personal cloud? And do we rely on the data centers? And what happens if the data center goes down? So those kind of questions always we face from the businesses. So it is about the reliance, like, okay, moving from the traditional model to cloud model, what about our data? What about our sensitive data? So that is one of the key questions that often comes up. And then the user adoption. And the user adoption is also about, yes, we do say the Dynamics is very intuitive, so you might not need much training. But again, what kind of training strategy you are implementing with the users? And users is traditionally might have seen a different product, and now you are talking about Dynamics. Now, in Dynamics, let me say in Dynamics, you can do the similar thing in a multiple different ways, right? So it might be overwhelming for a user who is coming from a completely traditional model to SaaS model to think about one particular area or one job, one particular task I need to do in my day. I can do it in 3 different ways, and it might be overwhelming and confusing in a certain point in time. So what is your strategy in terms of how you're training the user base and how the users are getting familiarized with the system? Now, we talk about LinkedIn, we talk about Facebook. We don't have to, nobody has given us training about how to use Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So in the same way, how you can familiarize users with the technology, with the product, and that is your ultimate benefit, because if the users find it very useful, get used to find things on their own, then it's a win in a way, because then they become the business champion, and then whether it's a new users coming into their business or they are training the other users, they become the business champions because they own the product, they know what to do and how to do things. So that is another call out, I would say. And the third one about the infrastructure and the platform and where you can make the savings with the Azure. And again, there need to be another strategy in terms of how you're defining the organization hierarchy, because ultimately the cost is based on each directorate or
Yeah,
each business unit. So that they need to have their own strategy in terms of how they want to bring it forward and how they want to make the savings. And operationally they would see that major savings. So once they start utilizing the system, once they adopt the system, they will see that eventually.
perfect, perfect. Makes sense to me. So Lipi, I think in the earlier we touched base people, products, and the governance, right, and the technology as well. And I think I have seen in one of your earlier interview touch base these three or four topics that you talked about in the book, right? Would you like to
Yeah.
share some example with us? Maybe having some presentation, something like that, so that team can understand, you know.
Sure. Let me present the screen so you can see. Let me know if you can see my screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you see the screen, Rakesh? Yeah.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. So one of the aspects we have talked about in the book is about moving from traditional to transformed. Now you can see in the graph that we have operational efficiency and we have customer experience. Now, whatever the organization priority, whether it's operational efficiency or customer experience, moving from traditional to transformed, we would like to make a suggestion that it doesn't happen in one fine day that you move everything in the digital transformation, and it has to be a phased approach. So stage one is moving your digital assets or optimize the existing IT infrastructure to the cloud and experiment with new on-core applications in the cloud to save your IT operating costs. And that is a journey on its own. So you can do that at the stage one. Now, once you have done that, once the organization has done that, then they can move into the stage two because the core applications are already in cloud. Then they can optimize the current business models and move their core business data or processes into a cloud-based business application. And that helps the operational excellence to move up. And third come the stage three, where the digital transformation, when the organization can create new business models, reaching new markets maybe, and use the knowledge of their cloud-based infrastructure, processes, and data to create new organizational solutions. So it's a three-step process. Some organization might not be in any stage, that's fine. But as long as you can relate to where you are in the organization, and I think it can be achieved like stage one and stage two, also depending on the organization size. It can also be achieved in stage one and stage two, might be as part of the strategy you decide to go in one go and then move on to stage three, because where you have to think about a new business model, where you want to target new markets, then you have to have a different strategy once you have quite familiar with the fact that you have already moved the digital experience and the customer experience has already moved up.
Agree,
So that's
agree.
one of the things that we have talked about in the book. And the other thing we also mentioned about what are the key success factors. Now, every organization might define their success factors slightly in a different way. It might be increasing the efficiency or the return on investment, or some organization might also help in terms of empowering the employees. And that has come up in a big way during the pandemic and also just before the pandemic when it was catching up. It's about how to retain, because everybody, the workforce has moved from being at work to remote. So how do you empower your employees in a way that they can own, they can have a sense of ownership and they can still excel in that way? So, and I would use an example here, the empowering your employees. One is about Dynamics 365. Yes, you have thought about, you have brought, your partner, a delivery partner, or you might be hiring some resourcing consultants working within your organization. But it's giving that sense of ownership and the business solving that business problem. Power Platform has also come up a big way because you can solve the business problems. You have the data. You need to think about what problems you're solving. And I've seen some examples in our book. We have used case studies where they have created apps, the security apps for Heathrow Airport. They have also used the languages, defining an app to help the commuters Then there is some kind of audit app also been created in the manufacturing sector. So it's about you have the data, but how you can enhance the data and help those use those data to make some business decisions. And this gives a great sense of, ownership and empowering your employees using that Power Platform. Then the third one is about eliminating waste. You might be refining your business processes. Again, it might not happen everything in one day. And don't try to, in the dynamics transformation, in a business transformation, don't try to achieve everything in one go. Take a step-by-step approach, and it helps in terms of adoption. It helps in terms of solving the problems. And when you can see that small wins, it helps everyone to, celebrate that kind of small wins and move on.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. So, and then it is about the real-time data. It's all about us because we are human and we are connected. It's not just about the technology, how we are connecting to people and what kind of benefits we are bringing to people. So that's another element, and the empathy. Sometimes it has been missed out in some of the transformation, but if you bring those factors all in, I think digital transformation is a successful journey, and you have to create about what is your success journey, because in your organization you would know what are the strengths and what are the key workforce, what is the culture within the organization. Otherwise, it's a famous quote about culture, it's strategy by Peter Drucker. So in business, that's quite common. So you have to define.
I completely agree, and I think as I travel around the world, right, for the big transformation project where customer is currently leveraging some sort of ACE 500 system and they want to move to Dynamics and leveraging the Power Platform, I keep hearing a CXO folks, right, guys, try to bring the concept of mindset, right, in this digital transformation journey. So what is your take on this, Lipi?
That's a brilliant point, actually. So, mindset, we have set a chapter on the mindset because it's so important and so pertinent about the mindset. And you touched upon the fact that you nailed it on head, right? Basically, it's about the culture and it's also about the mindset. Because if you're thinking from the organization point of view, somebody, and if it is a top-down sponsored, like we need to move into a certain direction, but what about the mindset about the workforce? Have you thought about that? Do they and what are the key challenges they are facing on their day-to-day life? So you have to resolve that problem. You have to, even if you're not resolving in one day, you have to think about the problems and analyze, and then you think about what are the key nuggets and how you're changing that mindset, moving from point A to point B, de-risking the whole digital transformation.
No, I think I completely agree with you, right? So looking at this book title, Lipi, Building a Digital Future, right? So far we covered what is digital transformation, the challenges, and how can we, overcome those challenges at a very high level, right? So what does this book offers businesses, Lipi?
So this book is written for the consultants in the organization, leadership team, so they would know if it is about, we want to transform the business, and in digital, in the pandemic way, the way it has impacted many businesses, and now the discussion is not about transforming as a strategy, it's also about transforming now. So many, in the public sector also, it has come up like, let's transform the business, let's give that back. Now, how you are doing it, that's the key steps, and how you're planning for it. What is your digital transformation? You only know within the organization, where do you want to be? Whether you want to be there, and it used to be that debate like, yes, it is in our strategy, we will transform, we have a digital strategy, and let's be there in 3 to 5 years time. And now it has moved forward because the pandemic has actually accelerated the digital transformation journey for every organization and in every sector. So it's about bringing it forward and thinking about, okay, what can we do now? Even if we want to be there in 3 years time, let's start the journey now and let's bring that journey. Let's do that, whatever we can achieve in 6 months, then let's plan for the next phase. So, sorry. And so the key question is about, this book is written for the stakeholders in mind, the consultants who are actually part of that digital transformation, so they can get a great experience in terms of what is the step-by-step journey. Then it's about the C-suite leaders, whether they are the business transformation director or the leadership team in the C-suite, so they can also have the flavor in terms of what can they do and what are the key steps they need to take in terms of preparing their organization, changing their mindsets, planning for the strategy of, what can they do for the user adoption. And ultimately, one of the points which I have not talked about in the whole session is about how you prepare after you have gone live with the technology. Who is supporting the the technology platform?
Yeah.
Is that internally you have a team to support it, or do you have an external supplier or the delivery partner who is going to support it? So define the strategy for the support in terms of who looks after it. Yes, Microsoft has got a great way of keeping the product green, because there are the upgrades that are happening, automatic upgrades are there. But in terms of, yet still you need to have a strategy in terms of who is actually owning it, who is actually supporting it. So making it clear, the roles and responsibilities should be absolutely clear. So again, that also helps the stakeholders from the support team of the organization or delivery partner. So this book can help you in that way. And finally, who has not thought about digital transformation? I'm thinking about the students of today who doesn't have experience, but they want to be there. They want to know about what is happening in real life, real world. So this book provides real life case studies to talk about.
Okay, I think that's perfectly makes sense, Lipi. So Lipi, I have seen a couple of books, right, where the author is doing a lot of research on a specific area and they try to describe, their thought process. But if I look at this book, it is not like, it is other way around, right? Because you and Winnie spent quite a good amount of time in the industry, try to learn a lot, try to implement your strategies, and you saw that success, right? Customer is, getting that. And then you started collating all the information, combining together to a one single book, right? So,
Yeah.
so with that known, what customer says, about the project that were executed while the pandemic was unfolding.
So when we talk to the customer, and that's we took some time to reach out to people, reach out to the customer, whether they are doing the digital transformation then, or and in with how it was impacted. So what we found is about the Dynamics has got its because of the strength, because of the deployment, because of its cloud. So the journey the customers were going at that point in time, many people said that when we were in the retail sector, we were in the brick and mortar, we could shift to our the business operating model in a very quick time. Somebody were already there because they have gone through that journey, they have just gone live, and they could carry on their business. Yes, they might have to define the reach out to the customers in a different way, like they might have done Teams call, Zoom call. And we talked about it recently in one of the interviews. We were talking about Michael Hill, who is very much into a niche industry of diamond. Now, think about somebody spending, so much amount of money in buying diamonds, and having a call rather than, just touch and feel. That's the very basic factor of the, buying behaviors. Without having that touch and feel, but over the call, they could place the order. Yes, they have gone through their journey. They have deployed the solution. They have they managed to do the UAT, the user acceptance testing, remotely. But that was all achievable because of the leveraging the key factors of Dynamics and the Power Platform. Then that was one end, and the other end was also some customers who were from the Power Platform. They were using Power Platform, and this was a great, the great learning from London Heathrow Airport. They have empowered their employees so much with the Power Platform, and they have set a target in terms of creating a security app, or they might be running a competition internally within the organization to solve the business problems. And they have created so many different apps using Power Platform. So uh, it's a sense of belonging, sense of empowerment within the employees, and that has helped motivate the company. So to talk about different challenges, every organization has got different challenges. Whether you talk about retail sector or people in different business of manufacturing, to the customer experience of reaching out. And the other great example, I would say, they use chatbot for reaching out to their customers and solve the problem, and be with the customers even in pandemic, be with the customers, talking to them regularly, and giving that richness and the customer experience, which was missing definitely during pandemic, when you couldn't meet people from face to face, and you cannot talk directly with them. So a lot of shifts in business has happened during this pandemic time. But I think Dynamics as a product, or Power Platform as a product, has come up with achieving those kind of gaps, but still managed to do the deployment, carry on with the business as it was supposed to be.
I think you covered most of my point, which I supposed to start focus on the Power Platform. But as I have seen from a Microsoft, there's a radical shift in the technology, right? A couple of years ago, maybe 7 to 8 years ago, it was on-prem or cloud ERP, predominantly focused on some sort of monolithic approach, and now they are moving from monolithic to heterogeneous architecture, modular sort of ERP and the CRM piece, and then there is a low-code and no-code platform of Power Platform, right?
Absolutely.
And why it is required? Because there is a shortage of developer across the globe, and then trying to encourage the bringing this low-code, no-code, so that businesses, business users, or citizen developers can start working on and writing a book or maybe some sort of going through understanding and documents and start building the applications. So with that note, how Power Platform is changing nature of business application investment? What is your thought on this, Lipi?
So the investment is changing in a greater way, because earlier people used to think about the organization, used to think about, okay, let's use the ERP or the Dynamics. Now it's shifting in a way because they are thinking about, okay, let's not go directly into the Dynamics. So let's start with the Power Platform. Let's resolve our business challenges. And meanwhile, we might be getting the data ready. We might get to know about the product in more details, and then we can shift to Dynamics. So there was another great example as a case study also we have put that forward, G&J Pepsi Cola, where they have started their journey and they have got the consultants, hired them internally initially to start their journey. And they did that with the Power Platform. They created different kind of, the apps, the sense of, with low code and no code, it was very easy for them to start their journey because they knew their business data, they knew what decision they want to drive. So they use and that became, the data becomes the power, the assets for the organization. For every organization, data is the asset. But they have used the data to drive their business decisions, and they started a journey with the Power Platform. And they have done a great deal in terms of investment in the Power Platform initially, before they have moved on to the Dynamics side of things. So I think the shift is more about, earlier it used to be, okay, let's find a delivery partner. Let's go and do, these are the business challenges we have got, and Dynamics will solve the problem, or ERP will solve the problem operationally. But now the shift in investment is more about, okay, let's start with the Power Platform and let's take that journey to Dynamics. Let's take that journey to, whether it's a sales and service module or the field service or the ERP side of things or the supply chain side of things. So that's where I see the shift is happening.
Okay. So Lipi, who can benefit from the book and the dilemmas faced by those, seeing a transformating change?
So the dilemma is about, where to start, right? So in terms of, we know we have to change, but we don't know where to start. And that's where the book can help in terms of, where we can actually bring that kind of capabilities. So the business consultants, transformation directors, C-suite leaders, consultants who are actually going through the journey, been in the transformation journey. So they can also have a read and understand in terms of, we have talked about many challenges. We have talked about many case studies in the book. So I think somewhere or the other, they can relate to their own journey. They can relate to the challenges they might be going through. So I'm sure they will find some kind of, solution to their own problems. If not, reach out to us. I'm happy to talk about, more details and any particular area you would like to target. Happy to do that.
Okay, Lipi. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Lipi, still we have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
I often get a request from my colleagues within the organization, outside the organization, that is from community, that if someone wants to understand your book, right? I typically segment it out as a consultant, a technical, functional, or CXO candidates, right? So would you like to help us to understand the journey or section by section? That the first section is focusing on CXO candidate, a section towards the end probably will help for IT managers or a consultant, or maybe set of chapters that a person like me as an architect, right, needs to thoroughly understand. Though it is not cup of my tea as a digital transformation, because I came from a background of solution architecting, but if I combine together the core understanding of digital transformation and the architecting, I think then it will really going to help for the customer, isn't it?
I can share a slide related to that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have got three different sections in the book. So the first section is about digital transformation case for change, where it is more about identifying the case for change. And this is targeted especially for the CXO kind of community, because you would understand, identify the business capabilities. And again, we talked about the solution, we talked about Dynamics and Power Platform, Dataverse on a very high level in terms of what it can achieve, right? Then in the second part, we have talked about how to evaluate the five cornerstones of digital transformation. So consider and evaluate your own organization. Again, it's a mix of CXOs as well as any consultants who are going through that journey. Then the program roadmap in terms of readiness, what do you need to do within the organization? And the review and agreed level of organization change management. Now, that is really helpful for the change managers. Sometimes we have seen a debate about within the organization, do we really need change managers, or can we within the organization can manage that change? So it helps that discussion or debate in terms of where you want to be. And build program and design principles. And I think, Rakesh, this is very much an area for the architects as well, because and architects are the backbone of designing the system, and they have their own sets of design principles. So you would, as an architect, also set what kind of design principles you want to bring it into the table so that you can de-risk the digital transformation. So it's about setting those design principles upfront before starting the journey. And then this is about driving innovation. The third section is about driving innovation and improvement. So what are the different kind of measures that you want to target? So who are the movers and shakers across the life cycle of the digital transformation? So identifying the strengths and capabilities internally within the organization, and that is written for anybody really, for any consultants within that digital transformation who are starting their digital transformation journey, or even the developers, so because you are part of that life cycle. So what kind of measures, whether you're measuring the customer experience, whether you are measuring the system stabilization or the support, so that is defining the continuous improvements, defining the framework for continuous improvements. I think that is for anyone within that digital transformation. And finally, the business metrics, what kind of metrics they are trying to evolve out of that digital transformation. So here is a graph where I've kind of, what is the target that you want to, what are the key driving changes that you want to address, like improving the business efficiency or the business processes. And the pathway to do that is the first section, identify where you are in your journey, and then define the principles, defining the guiding principles, and then that define those small steps, the continuous improvements. Don't try to target everything in one go, whether it's ERP, whether it's the sales and the customer experience, but try to define the journey so that you can achieve it, not try to bring it in a big bang. Does that help
Okay.
in terms of giving a shape of the book?
Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. So I think we are on time, Lipi. Do
Is
you
there any
have anything?
questions from the
Yeah, I think I
audience?
can. Yeah, I can see one question over there, but I think you have covered. But the question is, does the book have enough analogies to explain the concept so that we can grasp concept, quickly?
Absolutely. There are different examples from the industry. There are different analogies of what you should not be doing and what you should be doing. So again, we can only advise, and the organization might be having their own challenges. I'm not saying this book targets all the problems, but this book surfaces all the different kind of challenges that comes through in a digital transformation. So yes, there are case studies, there are examples, there are analogies, and we try to bring that to different kind of facts and figures also, like what is happening in the real world.
Okay. Okay. I think there is a last question from my end, Lipi.
Yeah.
How about second edition of this book? Have you thought
I would
about
love
it?
to.
Okay.
It's a yes, we are looking forward to have the second edition, and we are testing the market in terms of what are the different kind of challenges people go through, and we have got enough love given to our book, and from different countries also. And if you happen to read the book, please leave us a review in Amazon so that it can reach us to other people as well, so that we help lots of people. It's about the community and the community
Yeah.
helping each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it possible for you, Lipi, to share the details of your book of Amazon link so that team can directly go and start looking into it?
Yes, if you search for building a digital future, I think you can find that in the Amazon
Okay,
Marketplace.
I'll
So,
do that.
yeah.
Yeah. So I think with that, let us open the floor for questions. So folks, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand and we will try to unmute you.
I look forward to hear more about the questions. I mean, because this is the first time I'm talking in India as well. So
Yeah.
I look forward to hear what are the different challenges people go through in the organization and the challenges. So anybody from the audience who are going through that, please feel free to ask a question.
I think Kamesh has one question. Let me just unmute him. Or organizing team, can you please unmute
Yeah,
Kamesh?
yeah, yeah. Hi, I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I think you're audible, Kamesh. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Lipi. So it's
Hi.
great to speak to you. And actually, that's my question is just a follow-up question to the question that I asked in the pings, the chat window. So, is it I'm a technical consultant in D360 Finance and Operations. So, how far do you think that this book is going to help me shape my strategies whenever I speak with the client, management, everything?
Yeah. So great question, Kamesh. As a technical consultant, you are very much, where exactly what is a product is about. And this book is written not about the technology in in the technical sense. It's written more from the business perspective. So the way you can see this book is about, once you go through the book, you would get to understand different kind of challenges people go through in the business. And it will help you in terms of, shaping your conversation with your organization or with the business. So because it gives you a perception of these are the problems you might need to think about. And when you talk to business, you might relate to some of the problems they are already going through. And if not, then you can bring that, because sometimes even users don't know what the problems they are going through. So sometimes it's about unraveling it, unfolding those kind of conversation. And you can go into the deeper layer of the conversation by finding that out. And you can ask, are you having this kind of problems? Are you going through this kind of challenges? And that opens up quite a lot in the conversation.
Thank you, Lipi. I'll buy and then I'll put a review in Amazon. So
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
go through it. Thank you so much.
So I think Lipi, with that, one question was there in my mind, right? You might have seen many organizations nowadays try to hire the freshers, right? Freshers directly from college pass out, we call as newbies. So
Mhm.
what do you recommend if someone wants to go and understand a digital transformation, because they're just starting their career path? Probably they need to understand the technology, they need to understand the customer mindset as well as the product, whether it's a Power Platform, Dynamics 365, right? So how this book is going to help them to understand, because as you mentioned, there are step-by-step guide, right? So
Mhm.
would you like to
So
describe more on your thought process on that?
yeah, I think it's a very important point you touched upon. Firstly, I would like to say it's a very important for the freshers to come in the business and see what is happening, what kind of
Hmm.
challenges businesses are going through. But at the same time, it would be very unfair if you leave the freshers alone and they go and talk to the business, right? Because they might not have the problems, they might not know what is a solution, they might not even anticipate those problems. So it will be good for the freshers to follow and shadow the senior technical consultant or functional lead or functional consultant to build up that knowledge. And the book will also help them to understand, because then they can see the business through the lens of what I have already talked about, what Vinny and I have already talked about in this book, and also different industry leaders within that book. So it will help them to understand, navigate through that kind of journey, but also not to be left alone, I would say. So first shadow the function lead, function consultant, solution architect, and then be prepared. I think within 1 year, and depending on the freshers where they are sitting in the industry, because if they are coming in quite fresh, shadowing any senior people, but what kind of industry they are exposed to, they might see different kind of challenges, and the book will help them to navigate through different, understanding them, giving them an understanding in terms of what kind of challenges can be there.
Okay, okay, got it, Lipit. So let me just quickly check if there are any further questions. We are on time, Lipi.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure talking to you, Rakesh, and I really enjoyed, all the different aspects of not just a book, but also about sharing different kind of experience about the digital transformation, about different challenges that the industry may go through. I might not have, 1 hour was not enough, but I feel we have touched upon the key points through your queries.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for being with us, Lipi. It is really inspiring to all of us, and hope you and Vinny will continue your support to the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Signing
Thanks a
off.
lot. Yeah, thanks.